So, hello everyone. When I started my clinical research career long back, the most common question that I was asked is that have you read the ICH-GCP guidelines and do you know the 13 principles? These principles are very important and critical as they highlight the entire functioning of the clinical trial and how the trial should be conducted. So in this video, we are just going to look at all the 13 principles and understand the importance of it. Without wasting any further time, let's start the video. So before we start this video, I would request all of you to subscribe to this channel and like and share this video so that we can provide quality content to a lot of people. So coming on to ICH-GCP. So fundamentally we must understand what is ICH-GCP. Okay. So ICH stands for International Council for Harmonization of Technical Requirements for Pharmaceuticals for Human Use. Okay. And these this organization ICH provides a guideline. Okay. This guideline is called as Good Clinical Practice Guideline, which is GCP. So this guideline is essentially an internationally agreed standard that ensures the ethical and scientific quality in four aspects: designing, conducting, recording, and reporting of the clinical trial that involves participation of human subjects. So whenever you conduct a clinical trial, the most widely accepted global guidelines for scientific and ethical quality standard is ICH-GCP. Okay, so whenever someone asks you what is ICH-GCP, this should be your answer. Next thing is, which guideline do you follow? So the latest draft that we have for the ICH-GCP is E6R3 draft, which was released on 19th May, just last month, 2023. Okay, and the current applicable approved version is ICH-GCP E6R2 version, which was released long back in 2016. So every few years, whenever we conduct clinical trial, there are certain experiences, and through that we amend these guidelines so that we ensure that clinical trials are conducted ethically as well as scientifically. Okay, so that participations of human subjects in trial is ensured that it is safe and ethical. So let's move on to the 13 principles. So the first principle is regarding the ethics in clinical trial. So it states that clinical trials should be conducted in accordance to the ethical principles that have their origin in Declaration of Helsinki and are consistent with the GCP and applicable regulatory requirement, which means that clinical trial should be conducted ethically, and these ethical principles arrive from Declaration of Helsinki. So all those who don't know what is Declaration of Helsinki, so it is a declaration which essentially gave out what how the clinical trial should be conducted ethically, because there was this incidents and during the Nazi Germany where they conducted clinical trial which was unethical. They did all kinds of wrong experiments on humans, and the world got together and they thought that there should be a guideline to conduct ethical trial, and that is the origin of Declaration of Helsinki. So we have to follow the Declaration of Helsinki. Along with, we have to follow the good clinical practices, and wherever the trial is conducted, the regulatory requirement of that country should be followed. So that is the first principle. Okay. Now moving on to second principle, it highlights the risk versus benefit of the clinical trial. So before a trial is initiated, foreseeable risk and inconveniences should be weighed against the anticipated benefit, which means that even before you start the trial, your benefit should outweigh the risk. Okay, and this trial should be in the interest of subject safety, okay, and the society at large. A trial should only be initiated and continued if the anticipated benefit justify the risk. So you cannot just say that you will benefit from this trial, but the benefit should justify the risk also. So not necessarily all trial will be given approval until and unless it justifies the risk that the participants should take to enter this trial. So you must understand through this principle that whenever the clinical trials are conducted, they are very well thought out and they are in interest of the clinical trial subject as well as the society at large. This is the second principle. The third principle speaks regarding trial participants and their safety. So the rights, safety, and well-being of the trial subjects are the most important consideration and should prevail over the interest of science and society. So a lot of time it happens that we have a molecule which is highly toxic, but it can cure very untreatable disease. Okay, for example, cancer. But before doing such kind of risky experiment, it is very important to understand that we have to respect the right. Second is safety, and third is well-being of the clinical trial subject. And these three aspects of the trial subject should always prevail over the interest of science and the society. Even when the science and the society say that we have to take this risk, but it should not come at the cost of right, safety, and well-being of the subjects. Okay, so this is the principle 3. Coming to principle 4, it talks about the information of the medicinal product or the experimental medication. So, the available clinical and non clinical information on the investigational product should be adequate to support the proposed clinical trial. So, whenever a pharmaceutical company wants to conduct a clinical trial, they have to provide all the clinical and non clinical data. So, non clinical data is when they have done data in the lab on the microorganisms or on the lab rats and other kind of animal. Okay, and the clinical information if they have done any uh, toxicity test. So we have to provide all that data before we can ask them for the experimentation on humans. Okay, so all the available data of the investigational product should have adequate support to even consider to be included in a clinical trial. Okay, so data must be supportive so that a trial can start. That is fourth principle. Fifth principle states about good quality of the trial. So, clinical trial should be scientifically sound and described in a clear and detailed protocol. So, whenever you conduct a clinical trial, it should have a strong scientific fundamental, and every aspects of your experimentation should be described in a clear and detailed protocol. Okay, how the trial is going to be conducted, what kind of methods are being used, what kind of data is going to be used, and what is the concentration of the medication. So everything must be clearly described in the protocol. So that is where we ensure in ICGCP that this is a good quality trial. Next thing is principle 6. So principle 6 talks about the compliance with the study protocol. So a trial should be conducted in compliance with the study protocol that has received prior institutional review board, that is IRB, or institutional ethics committee, that is IEC, approval or favorable opinion. So whenever you go to apply that I want to conduct a clinical trial, the pharmaceutical company has to take the regulatory approval, that is from the government, and they also have to take the institutional ethics committee or institutional review board approval. Okay, this the function of the ethics committee is that they think about the benefit that this particular molecule shall have to the subjects at that particular hospital. Okay, so when it comes to FDA, it is for the entire country, the US CDSCO for the India likewise. But when it comes to IRC or IAB, it is a committee which thinks about right, safety, well-being of the subjects in that particular hospital or the clinical research site. Okay, and they ensure that there is compliance with the study protocol and patient safety. So that is principle 6. Next is principle 7. So medical decisions and responsibility. So medical care given to and medical decision made on behalf of the subject should be responsibility of a qualified physician or wherever applicable qualified dentist. So whenever you conduct a clinical trial, it is to be conducted under a qualified medical professional. Okay, so he should be a qualified physician or a dentist. A member with non-scientific background, non-medical background cannot lead the clinical trial because he won't be able to uh, judge the correct medical decision and take the responsibility. So that is principle 7. Next thing is the other aspects. So all the members who participate in the clinical trial, the trial staff competency. So each individual involved in the clinical trial should be qualified by three aspects: education, training, and experience to perform his or her responsibility. So that is why whenever you work in a clinical trial, it is very important that you are qualified, because you are essentially handling the medicinal product which can have a significant impact on patient safety. Okay, that is why all the staff should be competent and they should be qualified by education, training, and experience. That is principle 8. Coming on to principle 9, it talks about informed consent. Now, this is one of the most critical aspect, because it states that freely given informed consent should be obtained from every subject prior to clinical trial participation. So whenever you explain clinical trial protocol, okay, so it is very important that before you begin any kind of activity, you take a proper consent of the subject. Okay, because what happened in Nuremberg trials were that all the subjects were prisoners and they didn't take their permission and they did all sorts of evil experimentation. Likewise, we have to learn from it, and whenever you conduct a clinical trial, you have to obtain their consent first and then only participate them in the clinical trial. Okay, that is principle 9. Principle 10 talks about the clinical trial data. So you are conducting a clinical trial and you are going to get data out of it. So all the clinical trial information should be recorded, handled, and stored in a way that allows its accurate reporting, interpretation, and verification. So whatever data you have collected, that should be properly recorded, handled, and stored. And that is important because it should clearly have accurate reporting, it should clearly interpret whatever the data, and we should be able to verify whenever there is a audit. That is principle 10 for clinical trial data. Principle 11 talks about confidentiality of the clinical trial. So the confidentiality of the records that could identify the subjects should be protected, respecting the privacy and confidentiality rules in accordance to the applicable regulatory requirement. For example, in US we have HIPAA laws. Okay, so whenever a participant participates in a clinical trial, whatever his identifiers are, in which he could be identified anywhere, his name, his social security number, his Aadhaar card number, his date of birth, his phone number, so these information should be very strictly protected and they should not be disclosed anywhere. Okay, in US they have HIPAA guidelines, in other parts of the world they have other kinds of guidelines. So confidentiality is one of the key aspects whenever you conduct a clinical trial. Next thing is good manufacturing practices. So the investigational product should be manufactured, handled, and stored in accordance to the good manufacturing practices, and they should be used in accordance with the approved protocol. So whatever investigational medicine or the experimental medicine that you're testing, it should follow the good manufacturing practices, it should be handled properly, and it should be used according to the approved protocol, not more not less, but according to the whatever the regulatory authority has approved, that dosage. And it should follow the good manufacturing practices also. So that takes care of the investigational product quality. That is principle 12. Coming on to the last principle, that is principle 13, it talks about quality assurance. So all the systems with the procedure that assure the quality of every aspect of the trial should be implemented, which means that we should implement all kinds of system which ensures that a particular clinical trial has certain set of quality standards, and that quality can be reviewed whenever there is an audit. So whatever kind of systems do you have, that should be in compliance with the regulatory guidelines. Okay, so now coming on to the last principle, if you see from the first principle to the principle number 13, you must appreciate that all the aspects of the clinical trial is taken care of. So whenever you know all the 13 principle, you are essentially competent to conduct the clinical trial, as well as appreciate that how a clinical trial should be conducted, what are the guidelines, and how we move forward. So for every clinical research professional, it is very important that we know all the guidelines and especially the 13 principles. And of course, if you want to make a career in clinical research, it is very important to get appropriate certification. So our friends at Clinical Aim Research offer advanced certification in clinical research, where they also have fundamentals of clinical data management and pharmacovigilance taught in this particular course. This particular course is very affordable, and they are really helping a lot of students to get into clinical research career and make a good career out of it. So give them a try. And lastly, I hope I was able to help you. Thank you for watching this video, and please share with all of your friends so that they can also know these 13 principles and make their fundamentals strong in clinical research. And please make sure you subscribe to this channel and share it with a lot of people so that we can help a lot of people. Thank you.